Oh, what a fantastic turnout. It's a fantastic honour to be here, actually, to discuss something that, well, it kind of keeps everybody chattering, arguing, rowing in the commentary boxes as well as in dressing rooms. And that is the spirit of cricket. What is it? And the fascinating thing about the spirit of cricket is that I think everybody has their own personal definition of what the spirit of cricket is. What I don't want you all to do tonight is to agree with everything that we say. That would be a disappointment. I'd love you to go away this evening, when you've heard us chattering away, some sensible conversation, some of our TMS-y sort of a banter about all of this, but just thinking about what we've said, and I say either agreeing with it or not agreeing with it. But it's lovely to have you here. And Michael Vaughan, welcome to you as well. Go on then. I think because how do you start? How do you start even defining what the spirit of cricket is? Do you know in your mind what the spirit of cricket is?
The spirit of cricket, look, respect. I think respecting your opponent is obviously something that comes to the forefront of my mind, respecting the game, respecting those that have been before you. I'll be totally honest, I think a lot of what we talk about in terms of the spirit of the game is utter nonsense.
Nonsense?
Utter nonsense.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you why, because you're all England fans, I presume, or cricketing fans from around the world. In 2005, you'd have been celebrating the ball swinging around. Is it within the spirit of the game to put a Murray mint on one side to make the ball hoop against Australia? Probably not. But it's about beating the Aussies. In 2009, Bilal Shafiat was the 12th man at Cardiff when Jimmy Anderson and Monty Panesar was batting out for the draw. I noticed on a number of occasions he walked out with gloves and he was dropping the gloves to delay time, tactics. We drew a series in Sri Lanka by doing exactly the same. Is that within the spirit of the game? Throw it, Aggers. You'd have played for Leicester, England on one or two occasions. Throwing the ball in on the bounce to the keeper to scuff up one side. Surely you'd have done that. Is that in the spirit of the game?
We didn't know what reverse swing was, Michael. We were all about polishing the ball.
You didn't bowl quick enough.
We never got reverse swing. But a captain, I'm surprised to hear you say that you think it's nonsense, because the captain, if you look at the preamble to the laws of the game, the captain is responsible for ensuring that his team plays within the laws of the game.
Correct.
But also within the spirit of the game. That's the captain's responsibility.
The captain's responsibility is to win.
Oh.
Sport's about winning, and we could argue or talk or discuss. And of course, I believe the game to be played right, and it's to be played in a spirit and a fashion and in a way that entertains the public. That for me is what cricket's all about. And if every now and again, and I see every single team, I'm not saying when I was 11 or 12 or 13 or 14, but every single team, and I reckon you're exactly the same, and everyone that's played cricket in this room, whether it's playing on a Saturday afternoon, playing professionally, you would have done something within that game that you could argue is not the spirit of the game.
What, like
you can argue
lip salve and stuff?
Well, look, I'm not going as far as saying you put sandpaper in your pocket. I mean, that's just what another country do. But there's that fine line, and I guess when it goes against your team, you'll probably say it's against the spirit of the game. So I think it's a very fine margin. I'm a believer that it's a position of the skipper, the captain, in any sporting team, particularly cricket, is to create a culture in the dressing room that allows the players to go out onto that playing field to maximise their talent. And then you've got to try and entertain the public. And if you can do one or two little things that help you get over the line to get that trophy in your hands, you do it.
Our spirit of the game is not cheating necessarily, is it? It's not cheating, it's not gamesmanship, it's something rather more subtle than that. And I think it's easier to say that something is against the spirit of the game rather than actually is for the spirit of the game. So it's easy to say, oh, they shouldn't have done that. That's against the spirit of the game. Some examples. Something that was definitely in the spirit of the game, and we'll talk about this, I know, this year, because it's 20 years ago since your amazing Ashes win. There's one photograph, really, that stands out, which surely demonstrates the spirit of the game. And in that preamble that was beautifully read out there at the start, the word respect was used 3 times, wasn't it? That's respect, and that is spirit of the game. That is in the heat of battle, and somebody crushed by a 2-run defeat. That's That's spirit of the game, and it's respect for your opponent, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that picture tells you everything about what cricket is, particularly Test match cricket, particularly Ashes cricket. I'll be honest, I didn't know Freddie had done that.
You didn't know?
No, we were too busy ruffling Geraint Jones's hair, I think, and celebrating with the England supporters. And then Freddie just had this gut instinct to look at Brett Lee, who for 2 hours had been peppered. You know, Freddie had hit him many times on the arm, on the chest. And he just had this moment of going up to Brett to say, yeah, great fight.
Yeah.
And that is what cricket is all about.
It's a wonderful picture. Actually, a fellow called Tom Shaw took that. And I'm amazed that he was actually looking at Flintoff rather than doing what you were doing, because the action was happening elsewhere, wasn't it? You were running around chasing about, and yet he had somehow the presence of mind to snap that picture. And I mean, that was the photo. It was a slightly more iconic photo than the one of Freddie on the bus about 3 weeks later. that just summed up that series. In the heat of battle against Australia for the Ashes, you could still have moments like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the Ashes is all about. It's, you know, as much as, you know, you're desperate to beat Australia, desperate to get that little Ashes in your hands, fundamentally there's a huge amount of respect from both teams. Yeah. You know, I've been lucky enough to play in a couple, and you know, you play so hard and you're desperate to win, but ultimately there's a huge amount of respect between England and Australia. And Ashes series, if you go back through the history of the game, it's about real personalities. You know, Freddie's a personality. Brett Lee, the late great Shane Warne, there's no bigger personality than Shane. You know, you look at the present day, Ben Stokes, Steve Smith. That is what Ashes cricket is all about. And fundamentally, whatever happens throughout the 7 weeks, which pretty much is the Ashes series, you shake hands, you have a beer, and you have a huge amount, not just from those 7 weeks that you've played, but, you know, I look back at all my playing days and I think, yeah, the real respect that I have for players generally are from Australia. I mean, you go back to the 90s, it was the Australians really that would come and play county cricket, in particular the game that I tried to play. A lot was taught by Darren Lehman, Greg Blewett, Matthew Elliott, playing against all those Australian pros in the county game. And that's really how I taught myself through them how to play the game. So there's a huge amount of respect between England and Australia.
I'm going to say a name from that series. And it's not Glenn McGrath, it's not Shane Warne, it's not one you're going to think of. But this is spirit of cricket.
Yep.
Gary Pratt. was Gary Pratt and his amazing piece of fielding at Trent Bridge, when he suddenly miraculously, one of the best fielders in the country, appeared to be fielding a point and sadly ran Ricky Ponting out. Was that in the spirit of cricket? Was that? I mean, I know the dismissal wasn't planned, but he was on the field quite a lot.
He was. You know, and in sport...
He was on the bus as well at the end.
He was.
Going round, he was.
And he was pissed as well, like all of us.
He couldn't speak.
I would say in sport, your job as a group of leaders and within your management group is to try and get the best personnel out there on the middle.
Yes.
Gary Pratt was the best fielder in the county game, so why wouldn't we want our 12th man to be the best fielder in the game? So we just tried to wind Ricky Ponting up. It was a plan.
It worked.
Yeah, it did. And people forget that actually it was Simon Jones who was off the field. Now, Simon never played for England again. So for that one moment, actually, we were in our right to have Gary Pratt out there fielding. For the other 4.5 tests, no. We cheated.
Just a last thought on that series, though. I mean, 20 years goes so fast, doesn't it? And do you still look back on that with enormous affection? And look, I mean, England hammered here in the first Test match. Let's not forget McGrath bowling England out again. To come back and win it from there.
Yeah, I think. I guess the biggest pride from that series is the amount of people that started watching cricket. You know, I still get many people come up and say, I got into cricket because of 05. And that for me is what cricket's all about. When you go out there on the middle, whether it's here at Lord's, around the country, we get great support. You know, you go back to 2005, it was on Channel 4, there was 8 million people watching it every day.
Yeah, there were.
And that's probably the biggest pride that I take from the series, is that there was a style of cricket that people wanted to watch. And I kind of look at the way that England play now. All right, they're not winning every trophy, but they're trying to play a style of cricket that people want to watch. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. So yeah, it's 20 years, and I do smile when I get young kids in particular who aren't so young now, who say, I only got into cricket because of that series. So that probably makes all the players and those that are involved on both sides as proud as anything, because we might have just got a few more people watching cricket, playing the game of cricket because of that one series. So, that's special.
And it was available there for people to watch free, and that was the big thing about that, wasn't it? It really was.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah, no, we're in a different age, though, I guess. I think that's all old money.
But
I
you
think
could see your heroes, Michael.
Yeah,
you could go and copy them. I remember when I was a kid going and copying.
I agree.
Peter Lever and
don't underestimate the amount of kids that see cricket now through digital. Don't underestimate the amount of kids that see bowling clips, flying catches, run-outs, silly moments through TikTok, through Facebook, through X, through Instagram, which 20 years ago, that wasn't there. Yeah. So we can't just criticise what's gone and, it's gone behind the paywall. That's all old money for me.
Yeah, sure.
Sky Sports have done a tremendous job, and I think kids now are more... I know from my own children that they don't even watch. They don't even know what a telly is. They're just on the tablet. Many of us in this room have got kids who are seeing the modern world. So I don't think we promote the fact that there's so many more clips available for kids to see that possibly 20 years ago there was.
Let's give an example of that debate that I said at the very start of this, that people do have a different idea, perception of what spirit of cricket is. I'm going to say a name, and there might be a few boos in a minute. I'm going to say Johnny Bairstow here against Australia.
Yeah, he was out.
Well, he was out. He was technically out.
Yeah, he was done.
But that was this is where you and I, we're not going to fall out, Michael. I've known you too long. That, to me, was a classic...
The ball's still alive, he leaves his crease. Hello, you can get run out.
It's a classic example of spirit of cricket, though, I thought. Because actually, when you look at it, and I was commentating at the time, and that was the end of the over. I said that's the end, virtually said, because the umpire was handing the bowler his sweater, and Bairstow put his foot back in his ground before going out, which is the same as putting a bat in and then going out. There was an opportunity there, I thought, for Cummins and for Australian cricket to have really made some friends. If they'd thought about it, and the fact that it went to a replay, they had someone's laughing, the fact that I'm not sticking up for Australia, but when you go to the hullabaloo afterwards and the noise and the same old Aussie's always cheating, he could have killed that by just saying, by issuing a warning. That's where I'm getting to with this.
Right.
You issue a warning. Because if you warn somebody and then you do it, that's totally his fault. I think Jofra Archer here at the World Cup final, that amazing last ball in the super over, I think he should have said to the backing up batsman and to the umpire, I'm just telling you now, if I think you're trying to steal a run here, I'm going to run you out.
Going for the mankad, yeah?
Yeah, well, if he'd done that, because I think a mankad's a horrible thing, the run out. I actually got hold of the ICC before the last T20 tournament in Australia, and I phoned them up and said, I do not want to be the commentator who commentates on a World Cup final ending with a mankad or run out, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to be that commentator. You've got to do something about the rules. But if you're warned, if you're told, do that and that's going to happen, there could be no argument, can there? It's just when it's done in a sort of a brutal sort of a way.
I'll ask you a question. Who broke the spirit of cricket first?
Who wrote it first?
No, who in that Johnny Bairstow incident, who broke it first?
Oh, I see.
So Johnny Bairstow.
But no,
I've always been taught at the end of the over.
He wasn't stealing a run.
No, but you look to the keeper and give it. Am I all right?
Yeah, I don't think he was doing anything. I don't think he was doing anything underhand. He was just, it might be a bit dippy, but he tapped his foot in, and he walked out, and Carey ran him out.
So what about the skill? So how do you know that Pat Cummins didn't say to Alex Carey, by the way, we've noticed that Johnny Bairstow on a regular basis is walking out of his crease.
Yeah.
We're going to bowl a ball, and by the way, just throw it straight at the stumps. It's a piece of skill.
So you're totally happy with that as a...
Yes, it's out.
Are you?
Yes. Honoured, yes.
Can I just have another aside, please? Thank you. That's the sound I wanted to hear.
It's out.
And we heard it that afternoon here. I mean, there were a lot of... I know it was mid-afternoon, people had had a few or whatever, but that was a Sunday afternoon crowd.
Yeah, I must admit, I have to say that I thought the pavilion's reaction was fantastic. I still think it was out.
We're not going to go there. We're not going to go. But surely something like that is such a perfect example of this whole argument, isn't it? There's you and there's me.
If that had been Steve Smith batting, and let's say Jimmy Anderson's bowled the ball and Jamie Smith throwed the stumps down, are you reacting exactly like you're acting?
Yes, I am. And I did at the Oval in the One Day International when Ryan Sidebottom barged Grant Elliott down and then ran him out. And they had a full opportunity there because it was done, went to a replay. Someone with a cool head had 2 minutes to say, this is not good. But they didn't do it. So I was very critical of England then for that. You can't knock a batsman over and then run him out.
No, you can't. No, but Johnny was out.
Okay, well... But that's the whole point, isn't it? That's the whole point of this debate. I don't think anyone's right and anyone's wrong. It's just that grey area, isn't it?
I mean, the man-cad, I think, man-cads have been going on for a long, long time, but particularly it's become prominent with the white ball game in T20 cricket. When it first happened, I'm with you. I used to say, you've got to obviously warn the batter.
Yes.
I think if you get out doing it now, you're just stupid as a non-striking batter. You know the rules. They are the rules. You've just got to stay behind the line.
More people are doing it now.
Yeah, and don't be surprised if you get man-cadded. That's just the way I guess the T20 world that's brought that on. Rules are rules.
Yeah.
And
does the MCC? I haven't read the MCC coaching manual for a while. Does it still tell you how to back up? Do you remember how we were told?
Yes.
You backed up with the bowler bowling, so it was a seamless thing. So when he did that, you were out of your crease, weren't you? Yeah. So presumably, has it been changed?
I can't. I would think the coaching manual has changed because the game's moved on.
Yeah.
There's so many different skill sets and shots, but it's very clear for me now, as a non-striking batter, you keep your bat behind the line until the ball's released.
Okay, fair enough.
You're listening to the TMS podcast from BBC Radio 5 Live.
Talking of the game moving on, come on then. What a discussion point about the future of cricket at the moment. I mean, where is this game going? I mean, I know you're a modern thing. You like the IPL and all that. You go there and you commentate on it. But Test cricket must surely be your first love, isn't it?
I don't know if I speak on behalf of everyone, but I'm guessing I do, that Test cricket is the ultimate, it's the pinnacle. It's still the best format by a country mile in my eyes. But I just think with the way that Test cricket is now played, and particularly since June 22, the average amount of overs per Test match has been 282. So with 90 overs a day, and I know we don't get 90 often.
No.
That's 3 days and 12 overs that the game is played in. That's on average. I personally think...
Now, why is that, though? Is that batsman's technique faltering because of too much one-day cricket? Boycott would say that.
Yeah, Jeffrey, love him.
Yeah. But he would say that, wouldn't he? That actually batsmen don't survive as long as
I think there's a few things. I think, June 22, Ben and Baz took over the England team. And I know we're very for England, but they have changed the way that Test cricket is played. They're playing a brand of cricket that I've never ever seen. Over a period of time, they're scoring at 4.5s. They're smashing 400 in a given day. They're going out to get wickets from ball one with all these funky fields. It's fantastic. And I think in the last 3 years, I've been more entertained watching Test cricket than previous, and I've always loved Test match cricket. And I think it's because all teams now play an ultra-aggressive game. And I think the ground staff around the world have got to take a huge amount of credit because we're seeing more pitches with a balance between bat and ball, which is what cricket is. When you see, in Pakistan, the first Test match, all right, England won, but when you see 800, I turn off, not interested. But when you see around a par of 300, when there's a little bit of something there, it's a fantastic product. So I personally believe that it's now a 4-day product. I would go with 4-day Test match cricket. I'd have 96 overs per day. I know I can hear you saying, but they can't bowl 90.
But we're here till midnight.
Well, it's very simple. There's 2 or 3 things that needs to happen to get 96 overs in. First and foremost, the administrators, the officials have to move the game on quicker. They have to carry on playing in differential light. So we have lights at many of these venues. I personally, as soon as the lights come into play, and I understand the legalities of playing with a red ball with the lights on, umpires don't want to stay up there in case something bad happens, so I get that. You just switch to a pink ball. It's an entertainment product. We have to stay out there. Test cricket is the only format that we get off the pitch quicker than we get back on the pitch. I just don't understand that we get any light, we go straight off the pitch. Why can't we move to a pink ball?
I can see some massive arguments. So if you change, the Australians rucked at the Oval.
So I'll ask you again then. So you'd rather watch television, which is where our revenue comes from within the game, and see the cameras pan onto the balcony with players just sat there waiting for the lights to be improved?
No, I think I want to see them play with a red ball. I want to see them
but
play
you can't.
with the same ball.
They don't stay on with the red ball.
Well,
so this is my future.
Yeah.
So 96 overs a day.
You have your turn, Michael.
Yeah,
I'll just sit here and keep quiet.
96 overs a day, 4 days of Test cricket. If you lose a day inside the first 4, you can play an extra day. So you play that 5th day if you lose over 96 overs inside the first few days. I'd have 3 match series. I would have 2 leagues of 7.
Right.
So you're playing exactly the same amount of cricket. So I'm not having England, Australia and India playing more than any other country. So we can finally find out who the best team in the world is. So League of 7, so 2 leagues. I would make sure that the historical series, so the Ashes, England, India, Australia, the real historical prominent series, the first 3 test matches of the 5-match series go towards the league. The last 2 are just about the history of the game, because you want a 5-match series across those historical series.
Right.
So we've got 2 leagues. I would then take test match cricket around the world. So I would have the test match juggernaut playing in the southern hemisphere at a period, and there'd be no other cricket on at this time. So there's no franchise leagues, there's no bilateral one-day series. Everyone's playing test match cricket at the same time. Because I believe if we want test cricket to survive in 40, 50, 60, 70 years' time, something needs to be done now. As it speaks, with a 5-day format, teams playing sporadically around the globe, the narrative just doesn't exist. The only narrative that comes from test match cricket is the Ashes, India versus Australia, England versus India this summer. So, but India-Pakistan they don't play. No.
So they can play on neutral areas, but yes, but not.
Well, that'd be another thing I'd bring in, as long as they're in the same league. Now,
well, this is the problem. So I'm immediately, of course, going to say to you, what happens if England and Australia are in separate leagues?
Okay, so if cricket wants to go into the proper world of sport, they have to be in the same league. Because if England are in League 1, I'm laughing, and Australia are in League 2,
I think I've
you don't have, so Man United get relegated, and they might. They don't play Man City the following year because of the history. So I know I can hear you all going, the Ashes have to exist. And of course I want it to exist, but if we want test match cricket to be a brand of sport that has a narrative that we can completely understand,
right,
we have to have 2 leagues, and the best 7 teams will be in the first division, and the second best set of teams will be in the second division.
So you'd cancel the Ashes?
Well, I'm guessing that England and Australia, with the amount of expenditure that they have and the amount of fortune that they have, if they're not in the first division, something's gone drastically wrong.
Right.
Really wrong. And it's probably down to the overrate, because that's the reason why they don't really make the World Test Championship final, the England side, because of their overrate. So, you have to start from somewhere. And
in 2000, the bottom 2 teams ranked in Test cricket were India and England.
Well, they'll be in the second division. Look, you can carry on, I guess, with the Test cricket as it is, and it'd be great. I'll watch it, I'll commentate on it, fantastic. But if we want it to be a real narrative going forward for 50, 60, 70 more years, and we want the next generation to be really engaged with it, I think we need to know exactly who the best team is. I think by having equal amount of games over the period of however many years, we then get to the point, and also in the first division, whoever finishes bottom of the first division has to go away to the team that finishes top of the second division, and they have to win. If they don't beat the team that finishes top of the second division, they get relegated. So I just think it brings more of a commerciality. I think it would be a product as long as there was nothing else played. And I guess that is the political kind of landscape of how you get all these countries around the world to agree upon a period of the year, every year, where just test match cricket is played. Yeah. And then, you know what, for the rest of the 8.5 months, go and play as many franchise leagues as you want. I personally believe bilateral white ball cricket is gone. I just don't think there's enough time in the calendar to play bilateral white ball cricket. I would play bilateral white ball cricket.
Like 50 overs and
I just think I'd play it leading up to the World Cups. So a month leading into a 50-over World Cup, play a load of friendlies leading into the 50-over World Cup, vice versa with T20 cricket. I just don't think we've got enough time in the calendar to have all the franchise leagues, which, let's be honest, create a huge amount of revenue for the game. You only have to look at what's just happened in the UK with the 100. If you want that and you want the bilaterals and you want 5-day test match cricket, I just don't think we have enough months in the year. But the big thing is, I just want test cricket to have its window. I just want test cricket to have that period of every year where that's all we talk about. And I think if we do that, I think the next generation will always get into the game that we generally love the most. And also you kind of look at, I look at the West Indies. You look at the West Indies in the last 10 years, the amount of legendary, and I call them legendary, test match players that don't play for the West Indies in test match cricket because of the white ball game. I want to see the best players in the world playing test match cricket for a prolonged period of time.
Yes.
And I think if you just had this window where that was all that was played, I think players would play. I don't think they don't have an option to go and choose a franchise league.
Let's talk about the franchises, because it has now come close to home, hasn't it? And a huge amount of money. It hasn't actually been paid yet, has it? There's still some arguing, to be done, I think. But these bids have been received and they've been accepted, raising 500 million or something in the game. That's just here. Do you think that franchise cricket is Test cricket's biggest danger at the moment? Is that the most likely way that Test cricket could end?
Yeah, but I look at it in a different way. I think franchise cricket is helping save the game because of the amount of money that is generated through all these franchise leagues around the world.
Where's it going to go? Where's the money going to go? Where's the money going to go in the UK? Where's the 500 million going to go?
You've got an 18-county system.
Yeah.
So you're
going to bail out my old Leicestershire again. You'll pay off a few bills there.
Well, no, I'd get rid of Leicester, to be honest. But
I think
there's one gone.
But I think I probably would as well. That's the sad thing about it. In the way the modern game's going, I don't see a future.
TV broadcast deals are on the decline.
They are.
So you need to find a revenue source that funds the game away from broadcast. And I think the ECB have found that in this 100-ball tournament. I guess it'll be a T20 tournament in a few years' time. That's my guess. And then you're looking at a kind of global broadcast deal that I guess that's what they're arguing about at the minute. Now, without that money, how are we going to... And it's not just the 18 men's teams that have to be funded. There's the women's game now. There's so many other teams, pathway programs, grassroots cricket. There's a huge amount of money that the game requires. That's in the UK. Now, the 3.5-week 100-ball window, for me, is not the biggest threat to our game. The biggest threat to the game in the UK is all these other leagues around the world.
Yes.
And if we don't have a 100-ball tournament or a T20 tournament that can pay our players the money that they could earn in Pakistan, the Caribbean, the MLC, America, now we'll end up losing a lot of our real quality county players to go and play. You look at James Vince now, he's left the county game. Alex Hales has left the county game. Moeen Ali's not playing this year. So that's 3 quality players that I would love to have seen carry on playing in the UK. Now they've chosen and they're in their right to do so, and I don't... I look at what they've done and gone to live in Dubai. Absolutely right. It's the best for them. But, we've got to make sure that we've got enough money in the coffers to make sure our players don't leave the UK. And I think that's exactly what the 100's going to do. You're going to be able to give county players, and whether it's right or wrong, and it's probably not right, but a lot of the real quality county players are going to play for the 8 teams. The 8 counties that have got a 100-ball franchise. They're clearly going to have a few more quid, so the better players are going to end up playing for those teams, and they'll get a deal with the county and the 100-ball team at that venue. Now, I understand that there'll be many counties that will lose quality players on that kind of regard, but I'm just happy that those players are staying in the UK to play cricket.
Yeah. This is the home of cricket. I am a member of MCC, so I think I'm perfectly entitled to have a say that the MCC's role is cricket's guardian. How will MCC... Actually, I haven't got to answer this. I'm putting it out there. How will the MCC retain its influence and relevance on the game that we do really want to protect, now that it is also now part of the franchise machine that's gobbling up cricket? Does it matter?
Yeah, of course it matters, yeah. I just look at, Kane Williamson signed this year for Middlesex. He's playing for the London Spirit. That, for me, is where the addition is of the 100. I don't know, but I can't imagine that Kane would come over here without the 100-ball contract. So I'm, again, looking at it as a positive that, the MCC and all the other 7 franchises will be looking at trying to develop a quality team. But with that, if we can add on to the county game with players, it can only be good for the game. We have to try and get a system here in the UK that, I'll go back to Andrew Strauss's high performance review. I was staggered that the game threw that in the bin.
Yes.
Because it was a high performance review of the game to make English cricket better. Now, why has that been put in the bin? Just because it upset one or two counties?
Counties didn't like it.
I mean, exactly. So if we want to be, and let's be honest, in English cricket, we've had great times. We've had some wonderful moments in the last 20 years in particular with Ashes series wins. We've won World Cups, men's and women's. But we've never had a period of dominance like Australia have. I think India potentially could go through an era of dominance. The system that they have in India now it's through the roof. All the academies, the amount of players that are playing the game, the pathway program with the youngsters, the professionalism in terms of the preparation of their players, both physically, tactically, technically, and psychologically in India. And that's high performance. Don't be surprised if they rule the roofs for the next 10 or 15 years because they've developed something.
A real depth.
Yes. We put that in the bin. We said, no, with English cricket, we're fine. We've got 18 counties. We know what we're doing. We'll play all summer. The county players will get on the treadmill tomorrow morning. And you know what? They don't start playing until September the 29th. Seriously. So you're giving our next generation the chance to play cricket great, but then you're not giving them the chance to play cricket to a high performance level. And I personally would take the county game and spread it across more months. I would start county cricket in March.
What?
Yeah, I would.
Blimey.
But I would...
We were wearing long johns when I was playing in April. I can tell you that.
But I wouldn't be playing in the UK. I'd start overseas.
Oh, okay.
So the last 30 years when I've been playing and now commentating on the game, I guess many things get discussed. One of the things that we discuss is, we don't produce spinners, enough spinners. We don't play spin well enough. Our seam bowlers are only good with the duke ball. I said, okay, then, why don't we start and have 2 rounds of county cricket? All counties go overseas pretty much in March anyway for pre-season. And why not trying to get into bed with India? And why not say to India, we'll start our county championship in March in India. And by doing that, you'll get more English players, the chance to play overseas with a different ball to a duke. Spin would come into the game, and our players would have to get better at playing spin. I know there won't be many people being able to afford to travel to Abu Dhabi or Dubai or Bangalore, wherever this couple of rounds takes place. But YouTube is a huge kind of formula in terms of the way that people watch county cricket now. The YouTube numbers last summer were fantastic on the county game. Now, you go to India, you can still watch it on YouTube. And by the way, you might get a few local Indian business people that go, okay, we mind investing into that. So that's why I'd start county cricket, same amount of games, but just spread it across 7 months rather than 6. And the conveyor belt might just be a little bit better for the players in terms of high performance. How many days cricket do you think you've played here at Lord's, Phil?
Well, crikey, Middlesex-wise, 20 years I played for Middlesex.
Over 1,000?
Yes, well over 1,000.
You're an MCC member?
No.
It's in the post. Yeah, it's in the post, Tuffers.
No.
I
remember all those days of lamb chops and spotted dick and Gat and everything. Yeah, Mike. I saw Gat the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's turned into Henry VIII. He's like a cube.
Yes, he is.
He's like a cube.
I know he is. Now look,
what
spirit of cricket, Tuffers.
Yes. Spirit of cricket.
I think it's fair to say that I've watched you in some of your appearances.
Yeah.
Sometimes, very occasionally, you might have pushed that spirit of cricket line just a little bit, but you're quite a traditional old soul, aren't you?
Well, yes, I think, as you've all been saying, thanks for having us, by the way. It is difficult. I think you know it when you see it, and I think you definitely know it when you don't see it. And it was interesting listening to you about...
When you don't see it?
Yeah, when you don't
see it. Oh, I see, when you think it's a contravention.
Well, absolutely, that's right. And we were talking about Johnny Bairstow and everything, and I think I'm afraid with you, Aggers, old boy.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
I always did like you.
I think last ball of the over and everything, I think that was wrong. I think that, wasn't taking the run and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Rishi Sunak in the...
we did.
Yeah, he was going absolutely crazy. He
wasn't happy.
He wasn't happy. And none of...
Because he wasn't stealing a run. He wasn't doing anything. I mean, we've had that conversation anyway. But
no, sure. But so when you do see it,
yes.
I think it's very difficult actually for players to sort of embody it. Actually, I think almost we are the people who are the spirit of cricket. You know what I mean? Because the players are so in a bubble and you're so in that sort of moment, you're fighting and scrapping and ducking and weaving, that it's very, very difficult to actually sort of like bring that out of yourself. I mean, I went on 10 England tours, foreign ambassador for the country.
How many did you see out from start to finish?
Well, there you go. No, but I mean, I went over there, and it's funny, I don't think out of all of those tours, I stayed in one night of any of those tours. So you are...
Is that the spirit of cricket?
Well, no.
That's a different type of spirit.
No, it's not. But I mean, it's sort of like you get in this bubble.
Yes. I did jot down the spirit of cricket, just very briefly. Yeah. Disputing umpires' decisions.
Yes.
That
was a mistake. That was a mistake. See, there you go.
Kicking a cap down to the boundary when one's been given not out.
That's right. Well, it was Sachin Tendulkar, and it was the first time he would have ever been stumped. You know what I mean? And so you do then have these moments of sort of, you know what I mean? And it's very, very difficult because you're trying to make your way in the game. You're trying to nick a few quid, and you want to be picked, and you want to represent your country, and you're absolutely striving for it. I mean, it's interesting you talk about umpires and everything. I'll tell you a little story about that. My first Test match, I don't think they'd actually almost from a duty of care, was at the MCG.
Nice.
Yeah, for debut at the MCG. Bloody hell. You know what I mean? And so that was an interesting one. And I used to have a little tell when I bowled, that I'd sort of run up and bowl, and after sort of three or four balls, I'd go to the umpire, and I'd sort of go, how many left in the umpire? Yeah. How many balls left in, in the over ump, like that. And so I'd bowled my first 4 balls of my debut, and it was a chap called, I think it was Peter McConnell, was the umpire.
Australian.
Yes, the Australian umpire. No neutral umpires.
Well, they thought they were part of the team.
No, that's right, but they didn't have any neutral umpires or anything like that. So I'd bowled me 4 balls, and I was walking back, and as I'd walked past him, I'd gone, how many balls left, ump, like that, and he turned around to me and said, count them yourself, you pommy. And I went, excuse me?
Oh, I'm not surprised.
You can't talk to me like that. No. But so that just shows the difference. And I think Michael touched on it. As well. Different countries have different ideas about the spirit of the game.
Yeah, I think it's very true, including the umpires.
Yeah.
Ebbs, a cherubic face. I can't believe for a minute that you cause any problems on the field.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thanks for having me. Firstly, I'm grateful to Michael for softening the blow when it came. I wasn't sure if we were going to come in and all say we abide by it all the time and we're very good on the pitch. I grew up with 3 older brothers, first of all. I think it's worth... I'm the youngest, 3 older brothers. So I'm just putting into context that winning was very important. And you don't win as the youngest sister by always playing perfectly by the rules. So that was embedded in me as I've got older. I've gone around the world, been fortunate to play. And you know where I think the spirit of cricket actually sometimes is hardest in club cricket. Anyone here who's played club cricket, I think that's where it's harder than internationals. Internationals, there's a million rules.
There's police, there's
TV, but when you get to a club game, this is where it can go pear-shaped. So an example for me, I ended up, unfortunately, finishing my career with a 2-match ban.
What?
Love that.
Seriously?
Yeah, it wasn't my fault because actually...
It never is, Ebony.
It wasn't my fault. So, listen, anyone who's played club cricket, sometimes in the leagues there are some umpires which are known on the circuit to favour their own... You bring your home umpire, don't you? So,
yes.
It's volunteers, you bring your home umpire. So in this particular league that we were playing, I was playing for Shepperton. We were playing a team in Hampshire. I won't mention their name, but they know who they are. So they're known to have this umpire that had been a little bit sketchy with decisions. So what also frustrated club cricketers is when internationals came back from playing international cricket, came back into club cricket, took up and then started scoring runs. So anyway, I think they were a bit annoyed that a couple of the England girls had come back to play. So we're smashing them everywhere, by the way, just to let you know. We were just getting stuck in, cashing in. And this lady bowled a ball that I would describe as a filthy delivery. It went to 3rd slip.
We've all bowled them.
We've all bowled them. I've bowled them. It went to 3rd slip. So I hadn't played a shot. I'd leaned back and across, saw the ball, and just kind of left it. So I turn around, and the umpire's got his hand up. So, mate, come on.
For court?
Yeah, court. So I said, mate, I didn't play a shot. Which I didn't. The ball was so wide, and basically the keeper dived so far across, knocked the ball into. It was just a horrendous bit of cricket. Anyway, the wicket keeper decided to send me some choice swear words and told me where the changing room was, where the bar was, where the police station was, all in swear words. So she kicked off, and I said, look, this can't be real. And then I think I saw red mist. I may have possibly said choice words all the way around from the wicketkeeper all the way around, and then that was me done. So I got told off. I agree. I think club cricket's where it's hardest to
It
police.
could well be.
Yeah, because you get different levels of people, different motivations.
And they see things on the telly as well, and they think, well, that's all right, we can get away with that.
The spirit of cricket. So anyway, look, I it's not my finest moment.
No.
And I did retire after that, and I realised...
I think you're lucky to get 2 games to be honest. What do you, with your ACE programme, so young Afro-Caribbean kids, what do you teach them about the spirit of cricket?
Yeah, so we've got a charity, amazing. We've got 20,000 kids around the country in 6 different cities, and many are making professionals. We just had a kid signed to Sussex as a rookie the other day, so we've got kids who want to make it. I think, being honest, it's harder to sell some of the things that we sold to maybe my generation and before to the younger generation. So what I mean is the kids will watch football and you'll think of something like a man-cad and you'll say, oh, maybe you should give a warning, like you were saying earlier. And these kids will go, well, in football, there's no warning that there's offsides. There's no warning, you're out to win. In rugby and a scrum, there's no politeness, you're out to win. So I think it is a little bit harder with the younger generation to sell some of the spirit of cricket. I think respect is important.
Yes.
Knowing the laws of the game is very important. But when it comes to those moments like the Johnny Bairstow, I agree. I think the kids will tell you, we want to win. And I understand it. And so it's a little bit harder to get in that nuanced space. And you have debates and you have conversations and when games go, and I think the key is to make sure you maintain that line of respecting opponents. And I think the key is also to uphold the values of the game. You never want the game to kind of just disintegrate. So therefore, it is important to maintain it. But it is hard to say winning is priority. And I think the younger generation have just a little bit less, focus on being polite and nice. And they want to win. And I've always, be honest, I used to, when I started playing cricket, because I played football, basketball, lots of different school sports, I remember just thinking, why are we clapping in the opposition? I wanted to give them a stare down. And I'm like, I really did. And I was like, what is this about? And it actually, in hindsight, I still struggle with things like that. If you're playing a game...
Because you don't really mean it, do you?
No, because you don't. And you really just want to go into silence. So I think there are some things that are harder to explain, but equally respect and knowing the laws is where I think it's important.
It's funny, actually. I had the pleasure of bowling against Brian Lara for 2.5 days in Antigua.
Oh, yeah.
And,
so you got to know him pretty well, then.
Yes, and when he did get to 375, you just mentioned it there, we were all sort of going, yeah, well done.
We're going to talk about Test Match Special in a second, but I was shown the other day a lovely old piece of footage. Let's show now. This is Test Match Special back in the day. I think it was 1997. And it just gives a glimpse into what Test Match Special was like, well, not in the early days, but, 30 years ago or thereabouts.
Test Match Special is a programme renowned for its characters. Come on, let's go and meet a few.
Here's the box. It's a great train.
Peter Baxter, producer. Fred Truman, larger than life. Say good morning, Fred.
Oh, good morning, everyone.
CMJ.
Good morning.
Trevor.
Good morning.
And there over there in the corner, the bearded wonder.
Good morning.
There we are. This is where it all happens.
Bill Frindle keeps his eye on the facts and figures, and Fred's memory of past matches is remarkable.
You know that you've got an audience out there. You've got a captive audience. They're in motor cars. Probably the housewife, or probably she's in the garden, or probably the farmer doing his tractor, and all these sort of things who are interested in the great game of cricket. And so you have the privilege of telling them what it's all about, the game you love, and being paid for it at the same time. Which can't be a bad whole life, can it?
It certainly isn't, and our overseas friends keep coming back. The ABC's commentator Neville Oliver was given an unforgettable introduction.
I remember that Christopher Martin Jenkins, who is a bit scatterbrained, I mean, no matter how you want to paint it up, he can be an absolute twit at times, and he introduced me and he said, look, I've worked with this man in Australia so many times, and it's my pleasure to have the privilege of introduce him to the English audience for the first time, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the work of Nigel Oswald. and it was an absolute gem. Well, instead of sitting down nervous, I in fact sat down roaring with laughter, and isn't it amazing what will break the nerves? And for me, it was a terrific start, and frankly, it's got better since.
Some people, it seems, even resort to phoning us at awkward moments.
Caddick in, outside the off stump, no stroke there from Taylor, and the commentary team ideally is a mix of voices and styles, and the cricket lovers have the one or two people, the CMJ, who's absolutely down the middle with the cricket, and then you're a bit of both, and I'm the idiot on the outside, and we're none of us going to please everyone, are we?
There we go, a bit of a reminder. No, it's lovely, isn't it? Yeah, it's really nice. And it's something that Judy Martin-Jenkins is here, and James as well. It is remarkable, a relationship with an audience that surely no other sports programme on the radio has. I mean, Tuffers and I go off and do theatres, and thousands turn up. There is something about that programme, something about Test Match Special, that it is company. It's there. We're on for 5 days at a time, or if Michael only wants us for 4 days, which there you go. But with that, and it is a constant part of people's life, and it's an extraordinary programme to work on. When did you first wear, Michael, of TMS?
I would think it was the 80s. I would have been 13, 14. The Ashes would have been on, and I was in bed with you, Agus.
No, you weren't. No. That predates even me, Michael. But you've had Christopher. You've had Brian Johnston, maybe. He used to pop
John,
out.
I was there. Yeah.
Alan McGilvray, the Australian commentator.
Yeah, but it's. You probably. I hope you remember. In 2009, I was retiring. I was playing at Scarborough for Yorkshire, and I knew my days were done. I could hardly run, and you actually drove up.
I did.
To see me and came on the outfit and said, "Oh, we'd love you to join Test Match Special." And of all the kind of chairman of selectors or captains, coaches that have asked me to play in a cricket team, I would say that was the best conversation that I'd received, because I'd been brought up listening to the radio, and to think that, and it's only now that I've been found out, because I used to say, I'm going to work. And now my daughters now say to me, Dad, that's not work. You go to eat a bit of cake and talk a bit of nonsense and then have a few pints at night. I said, yeah, that's pretty much what we do, but it's always a joy. It's a real privilege to arrive at any cricketing venue around the world, to think that we're there to talk a bit of cricket. But there's something about the radio that's very, very special.
Yeah, it just works, doesn't it? Tuffers, when was your first?
Crikey, O'Reilly. I think it was probably my first sort of imagination of anything. I can remember sort of like sitting in the back of my dad's Ford Cortina, about 5 or 6 years old or something, like going down to Brighton, stuck in a traffic jam, with an ice cream or something, and just these sort of like words sort of like wafting out of the radio, you know what I mean? Which just sort of, and it was just like the backdrop to our summers, really.
Yes.
My mum would be making a bit of dinner, as you say, as old Fred would say, and my dad would be mowing a bit of lawn or something, and it was just on in the background all summer, And one of his first words he ever said to me, which I can remember, was talking about the spirit of the game, was, it's just not cricket. And that's a little bit gone out of the sort of vocabulary.
You hear that?
Now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What I find, and it's where I think radio sets it apart from TV, is that radio is that companion, and whereas television will kind of talk at you or talk to you from the wall or wherever you have it, the number of people who come up to me and say, "Cool, I remember where I was when I was listening, like the Ben Stokes hits Cummins for 4 at Headingley or whatever." Because when you're listening to the radio, you actually have to work. You actually have to engage your brain. You have to actually make the words into images. And they kind of burn onto the memory, don't they? But it's extraordinary how radio does do that, and the lasting images that people have. But sometimes you have to be serious. And Ebony, you at the moment, you've had quite a serious job to do away from TMS with the women's cricket. A bit of a shambles in Australia, let's be honest. I mean, but a good thing.
I wasn't playing, Agus.
No, he was. No, I'm not blaming you for that. But a good thing that women's cricket, which is progressing, and for whatever we say about the 100, I mean, it's had a dramatic impact on women's cricket in a very positive way. good thing that there has now been a review into that, which you'd have had in the men's game for years, of course, when people get sacked. Well, a couple of sackings for women's cricket now, and you're on that review. And is it a good sign that actually that is happening with women's cricket now?
This Women's Ashes was quite you said a really good point. We were doing a 5 Live show. We do these sort of Monday night shows, Suffers, you're often on them, aren't you? You guys kind of lead the way on that, where you talk about what's going on in the cricket space and obviously lead on England cricket. And normally when I've done these shows in the past and over the years, it's like a 5-minute at the very end of the show. You said we've done 45 minutes on the women's game out of it was nearly 50 minutes out of an hour's show. And to have leading voices like yourself know the insides and outsides of the game, to know how much people were commenting on it, this was serious business. The public are invested, the public care, and they don't want to see England in such a bad way, losing 16-0 down under in the women's format. So it was quite a seminal moment for me, realising how important it is for the women to get it right and be seen. They're performing and they're at the same level. Now they get paid. I didn't get paid, by the way, and now the girls are making the money. So, it was one of those moments. So I think there is that.
But that makes a difference, though, doesn't it? I mean, they are now professionals.
Yeah.
Do you think, and I'm going to bring up the F word, fitness, which I think has always been a difficult thing for a man to talk about with a woman's fitness. I don't know why, but it just feels that it is. Alex Hartley has got in there, and she said, look, some of these girls are not fit enough, letting the team down, and some of the members of that team did not take that sort of criticism very well. Are they being dragged into the professional age now? Have they got to open their eyes a bit, actually?
Yeah, look, I think England women are evolving into the professional era, and the Australian women have been professional for a lot longer. And so the delicate line when it comes to the fitness for women is, the honest answer is, people get nervous because women and body image and other issues, if you mention fitness, it can mean different things to different people. It can send someone into a dark place because of body image. But there is also the professional side, where the honest answer is the Australians are way fitter than England, and their standards are higher and they're more ruthless. And so even though England can, at the moment, compete against most sides in the world, and pretty much, if you look at the record, I think England had won like 80% of bilateral series in the last couple of years. England have been dominating, but when they go against Australia and when the pressure hit in the last couple of World Series, those things are telling. The fitness, the small margins. And a good example for me, Beth Mooney, who's an Australian cricketer, in her early career, wasn't considered fit by Australia, and she got dropped. She came and ran more twos in the Ashes series than the whole England women's side. So if you talk about fitness, things like that go, look, the Aussies are here, and the England girls, we have to accept that if we want to compete and take on the best side, we have to up our standards. So, the media in the room, I think it's just a natural evolution of understanding that professionalism now for the women's game equals more criticism, more attention. And so I was quite vocal in that, both in the media, both behind the scenes. And I think now there have been some changes that are going to say, look, this is the future that England need to focus on, up that professionalism, not so that we can dominate most teams, so we can take on the number one and overtake them.
Yeah, interesting.
Just quickly, just on the fitness thing, very early on in my...
Sorry, this is an unexpected intervention.
Well, no, you kind of... I decided very early on that if you don't have any muscles, you can't pull them.
You're listening to the TMS podcast from BBC Radio 5 Live.
And what about England's white ball captain then, the men? We're hearing all sorts of rumours here. Even talk of Ben Stokes. Now, this is rumour.
His legs will fall off.
Well, but it's quite a firm rumour, isn't it? I mean, come on, Michael, I'm going to let you off the long run here. But I think you and I are on the same place here.
Yeah.
Ben Stokes, white ball captain of England with the Ashes coming up.
No, I think... we've all been around cricket long enough to suggest that when they don't announce a captain, they clearly have got Ben in their thoughts. Harry Brook will be the T20 captain. I think that's going to be announced soon. That's something that I would expect. And if Harry Brook's good enough to be the T20 captain, the next World Cup is the T20 World Cup in a year. So if you're saying that Harry Brook is deemed good enough to captain a World Cup in a year's time, surely you want Harry Brook to be the captain of the 50-over team with that 50-over World Cup in 2.5 years' time.
You think so?
I think it's absolutely nonsense to think that Ben Stokes is going to play white ball cricket.
So do I.
He's had a body that he gives absolutely everything, and that's not just when he's playing for England. You don't have to see the way that he's training. He's all or nothing. You know, I think it's quite, in a way, selfish to even consider him, because he will say yes, because it's Ben Stokes, and he'll do whatever England ask him to do. Don't ask him. Just let him be the best, and I have him right up there with the best Test captains I've ever seen, with what he delivers. What he's delivered in the last 3 years, and the way that he's got England playing, the way that he's played himself, is right up there with the best. Yeah. I want to see Ben captain, and it's not just India this series in the summer. It's not just this Ashes series away from, obviously, here in the UK. I want to see him captain in 27 in the Ashes series. I want to see him get England to a World Test Championship final. We've never been in one. Why put the burden on him playing white ball cricket? It was only a few weeks ago he pulled out the 100 because his body wasn't quite right. So why are we even considering putting more? And it's not pressure on Ben, because he deals with pressure better than anybody. So it's not the pressure, it's just, let's just look after his body. Let's look after Ben Stokes' body, and let's try and make him play Test match cricket for as long as possible.
I agree.
Let him get an Ashes series in his hand, another Ashes series.
I just can't... I can't imagine what the reaction would be if he did that hamstring, or any injury, frankly, playing in a white ball game for England with that World Cup 2.5 years away. It seems utterly pointless. Tuffers, what's your thoughts on that? Have you got any?
Well, no. I mean, well, yes.
You're still dwelling on your fitness.
Well, no, I totally agree with Michael. It can't be Ben. I think probably Harry Brook. I was... you know, I mean, they've been mentioning sort of like that's a Sam Billings, James Vince, but now they've sort of gone away, haven't they? They're a bit too old now, aren't they? So I'm probably going to go for someone like a Harry Brook. I mean, he's still very young, isn't he? But why not throw these youngsters in? Because then in the future you're going to reap the rewards.
Yeah. And talking of Australia, can they win the Ashes with Bazball, Tuffers?
Listen, I like Bazball.
Do you?
Yes, I do. I like it.
They win some games, but they don't half lose some as well.
Well, they do. I think it needs a little bit of I think it needs a little bit of tweaking, but and just to sort of like be a little bit smarter at it. You know what I mean? I mean, the game here against Australia was just. I had my head in my hands. Was it Nathan Lyon walks off with a hamstring, 180 for one. Every single Australian was on the boundary, and and then we just kept slapping it straight to them. They'd gone. They're absolutely gone. So they just need to dial it down a little bit and be a bit smarter. But we know turning up every day to Test match cricket now, it's really exciting, isn't it? We don't know whether they're going to get bowled out in half an hour or go and get 750. No. So, and so you are sitting there, and I can remember Joe Root reverse sweeping at Pat Cummins.
I'm trying to forget it.
Yeah, absolutely. I nearly fell off my chair, you know what I mean? So there's obviously a balance and a blend that they've got to find, but I'm thinking that is the way to go. As you say, Mike was saying earlier, it's about entertaining, you know what I mean? Yes. And I am sat at
It's also about winning. It's also about winning.
Well, it is. Yes,
they've had some massive defeats through
yes, but I think that the
batting.
winning will come. The winning will come more often if you're playing that way. If you start going into your shell, you're not going to win bloody anything. The only way you win Test cricket now is go out there and be front foot cricketers, and that's how you win things. And I love sitting there now. We go. Mike said it. We have got the best job in the world. We sit there, cup of tea and everything, sandwich and looking, and it's just it's enthralling. Love it. From ball
it's
one.
certainly exciting.
Yeah.
Michael, Ashes winner. Bazball, can it win the Ashes? Or will it win the Ashes?
I think in 3 years I've been more entertained watching than I have been before, but they won't win just playing one way. No. You have the intent when you play Australia to be aggressive. That's first and foremost, that you have to have that mindset of, right, we're going to get on the front foot. This team have that. Without any question, they get on the front foot quicker and sometimes better than I've seen any England team. But you can't win just playing one way. So when you get on to Australia, Perth, the first Test match, if England have that skill set and that mindset to get on top, which they could, you can't allow Australia back in. And with the way that they played in the last Ashes series here, I go to Edgbaston, the first Test match. They were dominating that game in the second innings. The batting, the control in the game. They can't lose. Nathan Lyon got 5 wickets. There wasn't one fielder around the bat. Nathan Lyon then walked away from the game here at Lord's. England top-edged every pull shot. They get bowled out. They lose the game, they're 2-0 down. So Nathan Lyon only played really one game of cricket. So when you go to Australia in a few months' time, their bowling attack is very, very good. And the game of cricket in Australia has not changed the Kookaburra ball for 25 overs, it's going to do plenty. And it'll fly through. And particularly in the first innings, Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark, Boland, Nathan Lyon, whichever attack they go for, they will land it on a sixpence and they'll have a packed cordon and they'll say to the Baz ballers, there's your drive.
Yeah.
I can see it now.
Yeah.
If England go for the drive, I can also see 50 for 5 on a regular basis. But if they have the mindset of realising that is when Australia are at their most threatening and going, okay, we've just got to go back in the gear slightly. I'm not saying completely. Go back in the gear slightly and you earn the right. So if you bat for 30 overs with the Kookaburra ball and say you're 70 for 1, the next 50 overs till the second new ball, you can absolutely dictate and dominate. And you can score at 5, sometimes 6s, because it does nothing. All you have to do is work out how you're going to play Nathan Lyon. I get a feeling that England are just going to go out and attack fully, try and get on the front foot. And by the way, we'll sit on commentary and go, wow, that's a great shot. And they're, oh, snick. And I'll give you a clue, and it's happened for many, Australia don't drop chances. That quartet, and if Bo Webster's there, Cameron, and they're like albatrosses. They catch absolutely everything, so don't give them the opportunity. So if England go with this one way of playing, I think they'll get beat.
Okay.
If they play smart cricket and their bowlers are fit, and that's the key, you've got to get 20 wickets. You know, and to get 20 wickets, you've got to have different skill sets. It's not just about pace. Yes, it's nice to have one or two bowlers bowling 90 miles an hour, but from what I've seen in Australia, particularly in the last couple of seasons, the pitchers are doing more than I've seen. So Scott Boland's probably their best bowler in Australia. He bowls 83 miles an hour. He lands it on a sixpence. He goes bop. If we just go out with all-out pace, generally you bowl back of a length, and then you go short too early because of the pace. England have got to find bowlers that can hit the top of off stump. If they hit the top of the off stump with a little bit of movement and they challenge Australia to forward defence, they have a chance of getting 20 wickets. If they don't, it'll be a long old winter.
Well, let's hope not. I mean, mustn't everybody forget India, first of all. I mean, it's going to be a wonderful series here, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I mean, India are pretty much dominating, aren't they? They've just come off the Champions Trophy. I mean, things did lean in their favour, but they are going to be pretty tasty at home. Look, I'm looking forward to this one. I think their batting has been consistent. Look at Virat Kohli, the KL Rahuls. I think they're going to go quite well here. The question is if the likes of Bumrah and those guys are fit, we're going to have a real battle on our hands. But I look forward to that. You know, I think that when you look at series, England and Australia is what you look forward to at home. And I like to see what England have actually done, bringing through new fresh blood, Gus Atkinson, Bryden Cast. Can they test in home conditions? Can they get the ball moving as well, which is important, as well as that pace? So I think it's going to be a real test here this summer. And it's a chance for England to really settle in. This whole Baz ball, I agree. I think it's been one of the most fantastic times ever. I think I remember at Headingley as well, when Ben Stokes was going for that 180 and most people thought it was done. And Adam Mountford, remember, I was one of the few that said England could win here the night before, and they went on and did it. And I was like, yeah. But just a little one. But I do enjoy this format. I think when we talk some of the big concepts here about driving forward the modern game, Baz ball has got plenty of people interested. People who get into a car and a taxi driver who's a little bit into sport but not necessarily cricket, knows about this modern era and knows about it and is drawn in by some of the drama. So if we can now convert that and, like you say, play with a bit more nuance at the right time, I think this could be a really good moment for Test cricket, for English cricket.